Apropos Krimi im ZDF. Von morgen Abend an, jeweils samstags zu später Stunde, gibt es ein Wiedersehen mit dem ersten ZDF-Kommissar Erik Ode. 8 Folgen dieser beliebten Krimiserie werden wir in diesem Jahr noch einmal zeigen.
Jonas Valley in December 1991. Specialists attempted to find entrances to underground tunnels where they expected to find Adolf Hitler's last headquarters. It was built during the last months of the war by 30,000 concentration camp inmates. In 2 weeks, the initiators had used up all their funds, and the caterpillars were pulled out without finding any entrances. That leaves the questions. What did the Nazis leave behind in the large underground complex? And above all, what did the American troops find when they marched into Thuringen? Since the Red Army pulled out last year, the Jonas Valley has been the target of innumerable treasure seekers who suspected that the famous St. Petersburger Bernstein Zimmer was also located here. Included in this group was the American Mining Salvage Company. In the beginning of October, we accompanied the professional treasure seekers to the accessible part of the underground complex. They wanted to confirm what technical and financial resources would be needed to determine the size of the underground complex. The Americans wanted to establish where the SS had hidden their art transports and to find the entrances to the completed portions of the complex. The same speculations that their people had made years before. In the spring of 1945, the American troops apparently had no difficulty rousing any resistance. The end of the war was only a matter of time. As opposed to the Eastern Front, the German soldiers in the West put up only token resistance. As here in Worms, thousands chose to be prisoners of war over the senseless death on the battlefield. This American film documents the end of the German army in the West, a fact that the Nazi leader in Berlin would not acknowledge. The dream of the 1,000-year Reich had become a nightmare. The Americans knew by this time where the leaders in Berlin wanted to go, and this knowledge dictated their future actions. From the 1st to the 2nd of April, 1945, General Patton's 3D Army advanced towards Thuringen. The wedge-shaped attack was known by codename Operation Eclipse. General Patton pushed his soldiers to hurry up, as preparations to turn over Eisenach were made. The spearhead of the U.S. troops were already past the city. They had a special mission. As Captain Chick Cicchini told us at the beginning of September at a reunion in Colorado Springs. As Cicchini states, we had to push forward quickly for this action, which originally was supposed to have been done by airborne troops. Their mission was to capture a communications center that was staffed by high-ranking German military staff. General Patton, in his typical fashion, volunteered for this mission. Together with the 4th Armored Division, we were moved hurriedly to the east. We bypassed everything in our path, and when we reached Ohrdruf, we captured this communication center. In a 20th U.S. Corps dossier dated the 1st of April, 1945, 25 towns were named in which high-ranking civilians and military units from Berlin had been moved. Weimar was picked as a temporary Reich capital, and at the head of the list was Ohrdruf and Arnstadt listed. Hitler and his staff supposedly was to move into the not yet completed headquarters 3 kilometers west of the city. The Americans knew the codename S3 and suspected that the Fuhrer bunker had 5 underground shafts. The U.S. General Staff was well informed over the activity of the Nazis in Thuringen. On the 4th of April, Patton's spearhead pushed forward from Eisenach to Gotha and left the Autobahn and moved south toward Ohrdruf. On the way there, recon troops discovered a concentration camp, the first camp the American soldiers rescued. It had been evacuated by the SS just hours before. The prisoners, too weak to make the death march to Buchenwald, were shot on the spot by the SS. Only 1,000 of the 30,000 internees who had been there since November 1944 were left. These pictures so impressed the 89th Division troops that they were still a topic of conversation at their last reunion in early September in Colorado Springs. Among the 500 participants, we find very few who saw more than just the concentration camp. Take Paul Sibuzar, who was assigned to guard duty as a sergeant at the caserne in Ohrdruf. One day he was led by his fellow soldiers to a hill that was supposed to contain an underground complex. As he states, "I was led to this hill and went through 2 glass doors and went down 3 stories. We had flashlights because it was very dark down there. We were told that there were 2 more levels below where we were. We inspected about 12 rooms. Each was furnished differently. In one huge room, there was a large number of generators, and we were told that they could generate enough power to take care of a large city the size of Berlin. There were offices, men's toilets that were more modern than anything we had ever seen. Very modern. It was a brand new concrete building with top quality equipment." Do you know for whom this complex was planned? His answer: "We were told that this was Hitler's hideaway when he would have to leave Berlin because it was located in the center of Germany." What Paul Sibuzar explored on the edge of the cavern was not Hitler's headquarters in Jonas Valley, but the underground communication complex, Olga. In size and equipment, it was comparable to the communications bunker in Zosen, near Berlin. The alternate center, Olga, with its most modern equipment, fell into the hands of the Americans, and 3rd U.S. Army reports estimated its worth at $5 million. The SS occupied the military barracks in the fall of 1944, and under their command the construction of Hitler's headquarters was supposed to be completed by the 20th of April, 1945, Hitler's birthday. Neither there or in the barracks was there room for the military staff in Berlin, who began their evacuation to Thuringen in February. The majority of the staff came in March. On the 18th of March alone, 10 sections of the General Staff from Wusendorf moved to the area of Ohrdruf under the code name Olga. In fact, the highest-ranking General Prawn, who was responsible for the underground center, had to move to alternate quarters. The center for assigning quarters for the sections coming from Berlin was the Kaserne in Gotha. Friedrichsrode, a beautiful health resort on the edge of the Thüringer Forest, was made into an important military center and carried the code name Wolfsturm. The cover names with the root word of wolf was only used for places which were designated for Hitler. In March 1945, Horst Albrecht, a wounded German soldier, was assigned to one of the many pensions in Friedrichsrode that had been converted to military hospitals. The large hotels were reserved for other uses. As a matter of fact, some of the sections for operations in other groups of Army headquarters were moved into the Kurhaus. In February 1945, the Duke of Sachsen-Coburg-Gotha rented his castle Reinhardsbrunn to the German Empire. It was used to store ark transport vehicles and to set up